Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Tech This Week. My name is Apulak. Hope all of you are keeping well. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about a very big decision that a country has taken. I'm talking about Australia's decision to ban children under 16 from using social media. It's quite a big news, if you ask me. And the reason was fairly obvious, protecting kids from the growing dangers of mental health issues, cyberbullying, and addiction. But the question that I'm trying to answer today, and probably through the podcast, ask questions to you or make you ask these questions to yourself. Is this bold step a step towards something concrete, or is it to stumble into overregulation? And since this is not done by India, but the question definitely arises: what about a country like ours? Well, because given our vast and rapidly growing population of young social media users, could, or more importantly, should such a policy be implemented in our country as well? Right. But before we dig in, I think a little bit of background is required as to why Australia chose. I mean, yes, everybody seems to talk about the ills of social media exposure to children, but I think it was needed to validate that in terms of research. So a 2022 study by the University of Queensland, in fact, found that children were spending more than 3 hours daily on social media. And for all those who are doing that, they're twice as likely to report feelings of depression, you know. And if you think of it, the issue is actually global, because algorithms are designed to maximize engagement, and they tend to push, content sometimes harmful, from unrealistic beauty standards to dangerous viral challenges, which lure these youngsters, right? The tone is undeniable, and social media ban probably is one way to confront it. But the question, again, like I said, is the move in the right direction or a case of over policing? Well, that's a debate, right? That everybody would want to jump in, right? But before that, I think it's very important to get the perspective of the social media companies as well. So they have their parts to the story, right? And their argument is, what do the social media companies themselves have to say? Because these tech companies claim they are, taking steps to protect young users with age verification tools, content moderation, and parental controls. But you and I know, in all fairness, these are nothing but half measures. Algorithms still push harmful content, prioritizing engagement over well-being. And if you think of it, deep down, the business model itself depends on young, impressionable users staying online for hours. In fact, taking their perspective to the outside world, one of the spokesperson from a social media giant said that that it's entirely likely the ban could see the young people being pushed to darker corner of the internet, where no community guidelines exist, no safety tools or protection exist. So they're saying, given the fact that they will be online, probably the social media is a safer place to be in than pushing them to other corners. While it's true, I mean, what the statement is probably not completely false, but this statement also, don't you think, seems like a fragile attempt to deflect from their convenient failure to safeguard children's interests. Their objection seems less about protecting young users and more about protecting the bottom line, because a lot of commerce is driven by how much you engage on these social media platforms. So while tech companies plead that outright bans are extreme, maybe some merit is to that, purely because from commercial perspective. But the question remains, if they're so concerned about children, why hasn't their self-regulation worked? But it clearly hasn't. They're expecting actually tech companies to police themselves is like asking a tobacco company to lead anti-smoking drives. And again, coming back to India, why should India consider such an initiative? Here's the hard truth. Australia's ban may be controversial, but could it be a necessity? And India take a note of this? Well, India's policymakers must recognize that this isn't just a parenting issue, actually, right? It's a national health issue, and bold, systematic changes may be probably the way forward. But passing a law is one thing. You can say that I'll we want to ban social media usage under 16. Enforcing it is an entirely different challenge. And this is where the larger problem lies. And that's where I going to discuss what is the enforcement conundrum. The law's effectiveness hinges on enforcement. And that's where actually the cracks begin to show. The children or teens, aren't going to willingly disclose their real age if they want to continue using social media platforms, especially when the platforms are a gateway to entertainment and social interactions. So social media companies, which rely heavily on engagement with younger ones, have very little incentive to comply proactively. Losing the demographic could mean a significant hit to their business. And I've s- said this earlier. Therefore, the responsibility to enforce this ban ultimately will fall on the government. And it's no small feat and could be extremely challenging. Come to think of it, especially for a country like ours. For example, industries like alcohol, tobacco, or gambling have long been subject to strict age restrictions, but they're far from foolproof, right? We know that. Kids still find a way to access these products, and enforcement has always been a challenge. On top of it, social media platform presents an entirely new layer of complexity. They're not confined to national boundaries, make enforcement even more challenging. But having said though, we don't abandon speed limits just because some drivers break the law. Similarly, a ban may not be perfect, but it's a step towards protecting the vulnerable. You know, Again, giving the example of, say, tobacco or alcohol, ban or alcohol for minors doesn't completely prevent access, but we still enforce it because it's the right thing to do. The question is social media usage being banned by minors? Is it the right thing to do? That's the question that we're asking, right? Similarly, social media ban for children may not be able to eliminate every instance of misuse, but it sets a clear boundary protecting young minds from harm. I think that is what we should be probably thinking of. And how can governments enforce these bans effectively? One possibility being floated is integrating, age verification with, say, official identity systems, such that globally there are social security numbers. In our country, we have something like as Aadhaar. So imagine needing to link your account to a verified ID before logging in. In addition to that, because there would be security issues around that, social media also involve multiple other initiatives like regulating through technology. Because thanks to AI can help you in terms of age verification, could play a significant role using facial recognition, voice analytics for authentication. And we also need to collaborate on social media companies. Governments must push these platforms to embed stricter age checks and actively monitor compliance, right? And at the heart of it, regulations like these aren't about perfection. They're they're about taking a principled stand and mitigating harm as much as possible. All in all I would like to conclude on is, Australia's social media ban for kids is a bold move. Absolutely. But passing the law is only the first step. Enforcement is where the real battle lies. So can India, follow Australia's footsteps? Potentially, yes. Yeah. However, the question is not just whether to follow Australia's lead, but more importantly, are we prepared to face and overcome the complexities of enforcing such a policy? True challenge would require a collaborative effort, as we've seen. Governments need to step in, tech companies, parents, and also children need themselves to take part of this and make sure that effective change is done. A lot to think and ponder. Like I said, there'll be debates to this. Which side are you in? That's it from my end. Have a great week ahead.